Welcome back to another episode of Gatehouse Insights. Today, I'm joined by Kate Dillon, who is the owner and founder of Sheline. We're going to dive deeper into the realities of starting a business, the challenges she's faced along the way, and the skills she needed to start Sheline. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to the Gatehouse Legal Recruitment YouTube channel where you can see it all. Good morning, Kate.
Good morning.
So thank you for
having me.
Oh, my pleasure. It's great to chat with you again.
Always great to chat with you, Lou.
So I wanted to begin with Sheline, and I want you to take us back to your earlier days with starting the business, and if you could share a little bit about how it all began.
Well, it's a while ago now because it's over 5 years old now. That's just flown. It started with not being able to find a product that I wanted to buy, just a really functional bag that actually wasn't super conservative and that looked really nice. I mean, there were so many beautiful handbags on the market, but not a whole lot that had compartments to organise everything. Or if they did, they were like a couple of $1,000s, and I wanted something that I wouldn't feel too worried about knocking about, because, you know, when you put a computer and your paperwork in, you need it to be really robust. And so it also needed not to break. And I just couldn't find something like that anywhere. There's, you know, your laptop bag, which is like this really ugly, unattractive, often like a black square bag. Going back 5 years ago, we've come a long way, I think, in laptop bags in the market now. And then you have your beautiful handbag, and then you have your gym bag if you're organised. And then you've got a really beautiful suit on or whatever you're wearing to work. And I don't know, a laptop bag and a handbag, they don't go together very well. So I wanted something that could make a statement, that could carry everything. And so you didn't have that horrible Mary Poppins moment when you go into a boardroom meeting with your big tote, which is fabulous, but you can't find everything you need immediately to just perform like a man could with a briefcase.
And I've been in those situations where I haven't been able to find anything in my handbag, and it's really embarrassing, and you get really nervous and you're thinking, I just look ridiculous right now.
Oh, it's Murphy's Law. It only ever happens when it's the worst possible time for it to happen. And you just need that one thing, and then you can't find it. And then whenever you're not, you know, needing to find something, you can always pull out whatever you want. So it's much better to be able to rely on your bag and know where things are. So Sheline was born, and they're kind of like work tools, but they're also about expressing your personality. Definitely not conservative, so they make a statement. Couldn't find anything that was not conservative in the market, so my bags are definitely for the woman who's happy to be seen and add to her ensemble. But they're beautiful, they're elegant. It's about fierce elegance, premium practicality, and bold ambition, to really enable the wearer to walk fearlessly.
So they're absolutely beautiful, because I own a few pieces of yours, and I think it's the backpack, the Negotiator.
Yes,
is my favourite.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great.
And the leather is just so soft. It's just gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's a beautiful design. It's great because it's quite different, and you can convert it into different ways. I'm glad that you wear that. That's
wonderful. Yeah, I do. Pre-COVID, now I've been stuck at home. So
I know. Well, now they're kind of like bags to organise your work gear from the kitchen to the study area, or just to keep them away from children, keep all your work away from children. Yeah.
So, because you're a lawyer by background, you're a senior lawyer at that top tier firm, I'm hoping you can share a little bit about how you actually started it, and because you didn't have any training in design, but what did you do to upskill quickly?
I did almost every short course you could at RMIT, which was pretty funny. I did all of their handbag construction courses, and then I did their Illustrator and Photoshop courses 3 times each, more to just network with all the people in the courses. Also to learn the software, but you kind of learn the software the first time, and then the next 3 times you realise that all the industry professionals are in the class upskilling, because at the time Illustrator and Photoshop was not new, but there were a lot of people still hand drawing designs. So there were a lot of sort of people trying to upskill essentially to move to digital rather than drawing, and they were the perfect people to pick their brains about, do you know of like a small logistics provider that you think would work well for like a really small business that's doing this? Or, would you have any idea where I'd be able to go and source leather? Or do you have any tips on how best to get the best hardware and how much gold plating you should be putting on things? Like all the random questions that you don't even think that you need to ask until you're in a room full of people like that and you start trying to create a product like a handbag. And then they have this wealth of knowledge. And you're not a threat because you're this tiny micro business that's just starting out. So they share this unbelievable information with you. So I just kept going back again to ask more questions of these people, and ended up making some really great friends that have just been so incredibly supportive, almost like mini mentors along the way. And to be fair, I think I wasn't expecting people to be so helpful. But I think if you're willing to be vulnerable and conscious that you don't know the answer and willing to ask and say, can I have some help? People are amazing. Some people that I've met that I really don't know have gone above and beyond to help me out in spectacular ways. I'm now really conscious to pay that forward with other people when they ask me for help, if they're whatever size they are, but so that I'm doing the same thing, because it's been really lovely, the experience.
It's incredible that you did the course 3 times because of the networks.
3 times each course, so 6 times.
3 times each course. At what point did you realize, okay, everyone I need to be connected with is in these classes? At what point did you realize that and think, I'm going to redo the courses?
I had a conversation with the teacher who started, because it was the Illustrator course was tailored for fashion design, more clothing. And so the first time I did it, she was like, it's kind of all tailored to clothing. Here's a random handbag template, or this is how you would draw some hardware, or but it was really tailored to clothing. And then the next time I did it, she was like, you're doing it again. I'll make sure I have a whole lot more handbag specific tools in there so that you can create gold looking things in your drawings and things like that. And she was like, are you doing this to learn more, or are you doing this for another reason? I was like, it's a bit of both. And then by the third time, she had like almost a tailored handbag drawing class for me, but she was fully aware that I was also like picking people's brains for information, because they were like on the front line with retail, not necessarily in handbags, but they knew all about where the sourcing would be or the right area to move my research to if I was completely lost, because I had no idea. So it was just a due diligence project the whole time.
That's awesome.
And still is. I mean, you don't stop learning. And with your own business, you're always finding something new to learn, and there's always more knowledge to take on. I mean, every day you learn something else, or you're putting out fires, or you're problem solving, or you're trying to reduce costs, or you're dealing with COVID-19, or whatever you're dealing with. I think it's a good skill to have.
It's awesome. Now tell me a little bit more about your hashtag Walk Fearlessly, because I love it.
It's a lot to do with what we've just discussed, to be honest. It's about the fact that you can do anything you set your mind to, and there are no obstacles other than you. So if you think you can do it, then why not? And if you just embrace your fear and use it to your advantage, and embrace that vulnerability and walk forwards into it and find the answers, and you won't be scared anymore. It's about walking forwards and always feeling like anything's possible, and there are always going to be obstacles no matter what you do, but there's always a way around it, and feeling like there's a positive way around it, and you can do it if you believe you can do it.
Now let's talk about the realities of starting a business, because I'm always fascinated by people who step out of their comfort zone and do something that they've never done before, but also reach high levels of success. So could you share a little bit about, the realities of starting a business?
Yeah, I think there's always so much more to it than you realize, as you would know, because you've started like 3 businesses now. You would know more about this than me. I think you should answer this question.
I'm still learning myself, don't worry, every day.
So that's what it is, isn't it? I mean, every business is different, but like the core, I think, is about being ready to problem solve all the time and always expecting that there's going to be more work to do than you think and more money to be spent than you think. And that you'll need more help than you think and more time than you think. But ultimately, if you enjoy what you do, it's really rewarding. It's kind of like kids. It's always more chaotic, more time and more effort than you think, but super rewarding.
Yeah, it certainly is. Someone once told me that a business is like walking through a really big jungle. You can't see everything, but they say make sure you've got good advisors beside you because it's a jungle.
It is. Do you know what? I did this amazing course at MIT, and one of the professors actually used that analogy exactly. And she was saying that in the startup phase, you're absolutely in a jungle. And that's the whole thing, because you go into the jungle and you can't see the horizon, so you can't see where you're going. And you look at, a log and you think it's a log, but actually it's an anaconda. And, you don't have all the equipment and you don't have enough food and you've got to pivot and you've got to adapt. And, all of a sudden you might cut yourself. So you've got to work out how to fix the cut really quickly. And once you grow your business to a level where you've got to scale it, that's when you're probably more of a mountain climber and you can see the horizon and you've got the right equipment on board and, you've got your backpack because now you actually know how to get out of the jungle and you've got to climb the mountain and you've got the equipment that you need. And then once you've got a business that's really fantastic, you're sailing. So then you're on a boat and then it's about like making sure that you keep on top of the waves, but like you're pretty under control now and you've built your boat. So I think, she used the nail it, scale it, sail it as her catchwords. And a nailer is definitely someone who lives in the jungle, who's like the entrepreneur who does a bit of everything and they're all about problem solving. And the scaler is the mountain climber who's been able to ask the right questions and got to the point where they've got the equipment or the people on board to help them build their business up more. And the sailor is like the captain and they're like, now making sure that nothing goes wrong rather than, and maintaining what they have rather than trying to build. I thought they really resonated with me.
Yeah, it's really good. I like that analogy.
Yeah.
What's, in the last 5 years, what's been one of your biggest challenges you've had to deal with and how have you, I suppose, pushed through it?
Having 2 children and working 3 days as a lawyer and trying to build a business. That's been a big challenge. Really, that has been a challenge. I am so blessed to have been able to have children and really blessed to have a flexible job that enables me to pursue Sheline as well. But it's not easy and it's really difficult. I think it's really tough for women. I don't think society generally is set up really well for women to have children and then to be able to work. It's the best thing that you can do, but it's such a disadvantage from a career perspective. It's just really difficult. So I think running your own business has been such a brilliant thing for me because, you have control and you can slow down and speed up and you have the momentum and the pace and you can delegate, whereas it's a bit harder when you work for someone else, unless you have a really supportive firm or business that you work for, which I do, but it's not the case for everybody. So I think the blend, I suppose, is the challenge, because I don't know that you'd call it a balance at the moment, but you do what you've got to do to get through. And I love all 3 aspects. So I think, it's just about reassessing where your time is and how you want to best spend your time and making that work.
Yeah. Now, you are a practicing lawyer, and so in terms of the skills you've learned as a lawyer, how have you brought them into Sheline? And then the things you've learned in Sheline, how have you brought them into your practice as a lawyer?
100% the skills you learn as a lawyer around always dig to find the answer is absolutely how Sheline was born and continues to survive. It's all about continuing to do due diligence and ask a whole lot of questions and having that real attention to detail, I think, has been really important as well. Although I think the manufacturers think I'm the most anal person they've ever met in their life. It's really helped from a quality perspective. So that's also a massive skill, I think, that you learn as a lawyer. And then from Sheline, it's about bringing that whole commercial perspective back into a black letter law area. So I now understand the pain points of clients from a whole different level, because I've experienced a lot of them on a smaller scale myself. So it makes the decision making or the advising, when you're combining law and possible ways they can move their business to solve certain problems, to a whole new level, because you're bringing that real commercial perspective into it rather than just the legal view, which has been really helpful. It's much more holistic. And I really opened my eyes to it from running my own business, because you have to make a call. Firstly, I think about whether something is commercial. I mean, obviously you want it to be legal, but it needs to be commercial. The difference between commercial and legal can often be different.
Yeah. Now, I've heard you say before, the best training is doing. So tell me a bit more about that.
Well, I think with running, as you would know, running a business, the more you run a business, the less evergreen you become, and you've then seen it all, so to speak. I can't say that I've seen it all, but I've seen a lot in the last 5 years in terms of manufacturing handbags and designing and retailing handbags. And I tell you what, I laugh looking back at how I started 5 years ago, and the things that I did was just hilarious to where I am now. And I'm sure in another 5 years, I'll probably look at what I'm doing now and think, how funny that was the way I was doing it. But you just trial and error. I mean, the whole thing is fail fast, fail forward. And that's how you learn. I mean, there's only so much you can learn by studying, which is still super important, but actually doing and feeling your way is the way that it becomes indelibly marked into your psyche, so that I'll never make that mistake ever again. Learn from that, and I'm not going to lose money that way, or that was a really painful experience, and I'm going to move forward and note that, and not going to go down that pathway again. Or back to your jungle. It's about dealing with the spider bites and the snake bites, or stepping on the booby trap, and how do you make sure that you fix your injury quickly and keep going so you can still cut through the bushes.
Now, moving on to mentors, because I know I've heard you speak on mentors before, and you touched on it a little bit earlier before, but what's your view on mentors, and what's the best way to find a mentor and approach them?
I think, to be honest, just go for it. Just even cold calling is if you have someone in your network that is someone you'd really like to know, that you think has an amazing career journey, or has a job that you think is spectacular and you want to know more about. People are really touched, I think, when you reach out and say, I mean, you've got to be authentic about it, and you've got to respect their time. But if you're calling or emailing, I think calling is better. But if you're calling and saying, can I have 15 minutes of your time? I'll work around your schedule. I'd like to treat you to a coffee because I'm really interested in your path and your journey and what you've done, and I'd like to follow in your footsteps and learn more about how you did it. That's a lovely thing for someone to ask you. I think that's a beautiful way to start a friendship with someone, and that quite naturally sometimes that moves into a mentorship relationship. Just asking. I think when I was thinking about transitioning entirely from law into fashion, I tried to have coffee with as many people as I could. A friend of mine who I worked with at Ashurst had this amazing idea about 50 coffees with people, and I thought that was brilliant. So I started cold calling people. I mean, people do say no, but mostly they say yes. And having coffee with people and asking them about how they got to where they got to and what a day in their life looked like. And it's a fabulous way to network, but it's also a really clever way to gather a whole lot of mentors, almost like a board of advisors. Yeah.
I've got a number of mentors, and they act as my advisors. Like, they're my board. I'm like,
yeah.
The best. And I'm like, if I didn't have them, I'm thinking, who knows where I would be.
You don't know what you don't know, do you? So it's not until you go and say something to someone who's more trained or more experienced in that area, and they're, have you thought about this, Louise? You're like,
Yeah.
Very good that you told me about that. I can't say that that's crossed my mind yet, but that obviously I can see now why that would make a lot of sense. I've regularly got, oh, Kate, have you thought about this? No, that is definitely something I need to think about. Well, have you thought about it this way? Like, oh, that's an entirely different perspective. That's so helpful. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I really like having mentors, and they've changed my life. I'm sure they've changed your life and business as well, haven't they?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And before we wrap up, what's one piece of advice or wisdom you want other women to know and take away?
Oh, I think that just women are amazing, and women can do absolutely anything, and don't ever let anyone dull your shine, because anything is possible if you set your mind to it. It's not necessarily going to be an easy path, but if you want it, you can do it. You can make it happen, and just dream big, because you can do it.
Kate, you're incredible. Your bags are incredible. So thank you for joining me today.
Oh, the privilege is entirely mine, from the woman with 3 successful businesses, and I'm the humble person with 1. I think it's the other way around. But thank you very much for having me on your show, and I feel honoured to have been interviewed by you.
And there you have it. Another episode of Gatehouse Insights comes to an end. Thank you for watching, and thank you for sharing this video with your friends. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to the Gatehouse Legal Recruitment YouTube channel, where you can see more.